Okay, so this week in Build It Live, it's actually a bit of a change of plan. We are going to build or try to build an agent that has persistent memory. It uses the content area, files in the content area to manage memory so that when you move to a new conversation with the same agent, it can retrieve stuff that it remembered and stored in those files so that it has better context about us, even across more than one conversation. So this is something ChatGPT does. ChatGPT has memories of you as a user. There's some key differentiations here, though, with how we're going to do it in AutoHive. And one of those is we are not by default going to make the memory global. So we're gonna scope the memory to each agent. So I might want my marketing agent to remember things about me that I don't need it to know things that my daily briefing agent remembers about me, for example. So by default, we're going to scope the memories to the agent level. We could then also create an overseer or like a grandmaster memory agent that could have access to the memories of all of the different agents. And then that might be your go-to under specific circumstances where you wanted to have all of the possible contexts or memories across all of the conversations with all of your agents. So it differs from ChatGPT in that regard. ChatGPT has a global memory, which means regardless of which custom GPT you're talking to, it can't recall memories that were specific to a previous conversation with this specific custom GPT. So I'm going to get stuck into building, and we're going to use the content area to store these memory files. The agents can write to content area files. They can edit them, they can delete them, and they can update them. So that's how we're going to do it. And when I start this process, I'm going to use Prompt Writer, which is one of our prompt engineering agents. I'm expecting it will recommend us to use a really structured language for these files that will be JSON. It may not recommend that, but I think it probably will. And if it does, I want to preface all of this by saying you don't need to be scared of that, because it's just a really well-structured, deliberate way to write the memories into a file and allow a large language model to be able to reference those memories easily and read those files easily. So we as humans, we don't need to really be able to read and understand JSON or write JSON. The agent's going to take care of that for us. We will be able to, if we want, download the file, open it up, look at the memories that are in there, and if we need to, we can delete them if necessary. But we can also just ask our agent to do that. So I will start to share my screen over here. And I'll get stuck into building. So I've created a workspace called Memory Agents. If you were creating a new workspace, you click on the word workspaces above your list of workspaces and go create workspace. I've also brought in Prompt Writer into the conversation. If you need to find Prompt Writer, you can go click the plus next to your new workspace name and go browse agents. And then Prompt Writer will be in this list. I won't see it in this list now because it's already inside this workspace. But if it wasn't in the workspace, it would be in the list. So Prompt Writer is our prompt engineer, and I'm going to start a conversation with it about how we might implement memory for our agent. So I've got quite a long, detailed prompt here, which I can talk through. So it says, I'd like to discuss how we could do the following, ideally by creating a single copy and paste snippet of XML instructions that I could provide to any agent inside the workspace, letting the agent know that it now has memory management capability and that it should use it. So without reading the rest of the prompt, what we're trying to achieve here is we're asking this prompt writing agent to give us a little snippet of instructions that we can then drop to any of our agents. And then forever thereafter, those agents will have the ability to create memory files and manage those memory files and recall memories from those files at the start and during conversations. So I'm just asking prompt writer to help me write the instructions to make agents do this. I've said I've created a folder in the content area called memory. I'd like each agent to have its own file of memories written in whichever format makes sense. So that's where I'm expecting it to say JSON makes sense. The snippet of instructions should include telling the agent to read the memory file in full at the start of each new conversation. The memory files will be maintained by the agent rather than the human. Okay, so I'm going to send this now, and I'm expecting possibly some questions from prompt writer first. Yeah, it has recommended JSON. Oh, it's going to go straight ahead and write the instructions. So let's just have a read and see what it says. I'd be happy to help you create a system instruction snippet for agents to manage their own memory. Let's break down what we need. A standardized memory file structure, instructions for agents to read and write, logic for creating a new memory file if one doesn't exist, and guidelines for when to update memories during conversations. So it has recommended JSON as the structure. It's saying the key memory components could include core facts about the user, conversation history, important preferences or settings, contextual information for recurring topics. Let me create a comprehensive system instruction snippet that agents can use to manage their memory files. So it's written a decent sized snippet, and these instructions will include everything an agent needs to know in order to effectively use memory. Now, we could have a long back and forth here. It looks like it's asking for some guidance, actually. I chose JSON because it's structured. The structure includes, okay, so it's just telling us, the design decisions that it's made. The instructions cover what happens at the start of a conversation, when to update, and what to do at the end of a conversation. Implementation guidelines, practical guidance on accessing the files, how to integrate memories into responses, and error handling for robustness. Cool. So it's asking, or it's giving some useful suggestions at the end as well. You might want to consider these additional features: memory prioritization, a mechanism to prioritize more important or more recent memories. That could be useful, right? Memory decay, automatically reducing importance of older unused memories, and explicit memory commands, allowing the user to directly instruct the agent to remember or forget specific items. That would be really useful. So I think I'll say, can we please add number 3 to the next version of these instructions? So it's now going to write me a new snippet of instructions that should also include the ability for me to be able to say to this agent that we're going to provide this snippet of instructions to. Forget that. That's irrelevant. I want you to remove that from your memory file, and it'll do that, in theory. I should caveat all this by saying I've never tried this before, and we are experimenting live here. So let's see how we go. So we've got a new snippet of instructions. I'm going to grab that now. And what I'm going to do next is, let's start a new conversation over here. On a different screen, I'm just going to drop those instructions so that I can paste them back in shortly. So I'm just going to drop those over there. Okay. I've stashed those instructions for now. And in a new conversation with prompt writer now, I'm going to ask it to create me an agent, which we're going to test this new snippet with. So this says, I'd like to build an agent that has memory. I've pasted in a snippet of system instructions that you need to apply to this agent. They instruct it on how to use the memory capability. The agent we're creating should help me plan future Build It Live sessions. So just an example agent. So underneath here, let me grab those instructions again, and I'm going to paste in that snippet. Here we go. Cool. So it looks like it's doing some web searching to see what Build It Live is all about. it's writing instructions for the Build It Live Planner agent. And if all goes to plan, this set of instructions should include that snippet about memory management. So we're looking for that memory management tag. Let's see where it puts it. Here it is. Cool. Okay, that's good. So it's going to work in those memory instructions for us. Once this is finished, we'll create this agent, and then I'll give it a test prompt. And the test prompt contains some information about me that I want it to remember and some information that is not that relevant, and we'll see how well it handles that in its memory file. Let's see. That's creating another artifact. So our prompt writer does this as well. This is a usage guide on how to use this new agent. We don't always need it, but it's handy that it outputs it for us. Let's grab the system instructions first of all, which are these, and I'll just hit copy up there. Now we'll go create agent, and I'll paste those into here. And it was called Build It Live Planner. Get one of these profile pictures. I'll go with Gemini 2.5 Pro. I've knocked the temperature down a little bit. This bit is crucial. It's definitely going to need access to the workspace content folder because the content folder is where it's going to store these memories. Full web search access, yes, it can have, because an agent that helps me plan these sessions would probably make use of that, and it would be helpful. I'm going to browse the workspace content folder and give it access to the memory folder. There's no sub files in here yet. This agent doesn't have a memory file, so I'm hoping when we start this conversation, the first thing it'll do is create a memory file, and it will do that using the structure that it recommended in that JSON format. So, I'll tell you what I need to do. I just need to tick that box and go done. So now it has access to the content area, but it will only access the folder called memory. So that's cool. Helps me plan, build it live sessions and users memory. Okay. I'll hit create now. Now we're going to test it and we'll see how effectively it remembers. I've got a test prompt. So this says, hi there, I'm Buzz Cornwell. This is Buzz Cornwell's account. So rather than confuse it by saying I'm Joe, I'm going to say I'm Buzz Cornwell, community manager, AutoHive. This is our first conversation, so I want to introduce myself and share some relevant information. Been with AutoHive for about 3 years. Not true, but it doesn't matter. It can, we just want to see what it remembers. So AutoHive office hours every Thursday at 9:30, that's correct. Build It Live Tuesdays at 12, yeah, that's correct. My team consists of 4 community specialists, completely fabricated, but let's see whether it remembers because that's important information. Communication preferences, most responsive on Slack between 9 and 4. I had toast for breakfast. I'm wearing a blue shirt today. Shall we get started planning next week's Build It Live? So let's just see what happens now and see whether it executes its memory capability. It's a bit of a moment of truth. I'm quite excited about this actually, because if this works well, it's easy to drop this snippet of instructions into all of our agents and have memory with those agents. It's checking for an existing memory file, so that's good. This is a good start. Just give it a minute to do this. It's created a new file now. I've taken note of all the details, especially your preference for practical real-world examples and the standing times of your office hours and Build It Live. I'm ready to dive into planning. Cool. All right. So let's say, can you show me the contents of the memory file you created, please? So remember, this is probably going to be in JSON format. Interesting. You didn't show me the contents. Could you do that, please, in a code block if necessary? So that's just instructing it that it's it can use a code block in the conversation to output the contents of that memory file. Let's see whether it manages it this time. Here we go. Cool. My apologies. It seems the way I presented the file wasn't clear. Here we go. So this is the contents of the memory. Created at, last updated at, user information, Buzz Cornwell, category communication, most responsive on Slack between 9 and 4. So that's good. It hung on to that. Prefers all tutorial content to use practical real world examples rather than abstract concepts. Now, was that in the original educational content to help users? I'm not sure if it might have hallucinated that. So let's have a look. I'm most responsive. Remember that I prefer all, it does say that I prefer all tutorial content to use practical real world examples. So that's good. Okay, so it hasn't hallucinated a memory. Phew, right. Let's carry on. Allergic to shellfish. Yep, that's important to categorize that as personal. I'm not actually allergic to shellfish. I love them. Community manager, auto hive. So it's the structure of this file is quite good. I didn't look at this in much detail, but it's actually super helpful to see a list of important facts when it was last referenced and how it's actually scoring how important that is as well, which is really powerful. So the last referenced value could be used to decay these facts, right? We could add to the snippet of instructions that the fact that he's community manager at AutoHive hasn't been referenced in the last 6 months. Anything that isn't referenced more regularly than 6 monthly can be removed. So then it would be removed. It has remembered what the team consists of. And what's cool is it didn't remember what I had for breakfast or what color shirt I'm wearing. So it's working quite well. It knows what's important and what isn't. Unless I've overlooked that, but I can't see that in here. We are beginning to plan the next build up live session. Cool. So that was a pretty helpful, useful first run. There's lots of ways to enhance this now. Like I said, we could use the last referenced values to decay some important facts. I also think potentially there's a little too much information in here. If we were capturing memories at this cadence regularly, the memory files would become massive, and then they might fill up the conversation with context that isn't always useful. So that's something that we would tweak in that snippet of instructions that we are using. We could also choose to restructure the format of the memory file, right? User information is a logical section, but important facts is a little bit vague, right? Maybe rather than important facts, you might have roles and responsibilities information, and you might have learning style or communication style information as another category, for example. So you can mess around with how you structure the template or the file that contains these memories. But now, hopefully, going forward, you could apply the system instructions that you got from Prompt Writer to any of your agents, and then you've given your agents a more global memory. So when you start a new conversation, it will remember stuff that you talked about previously, and I think that's super powerful. So go and give that a go and see how you go.